Brendan Burns.
Thank you, Mr Chair. I wanted to pick up, and I will speak shortly to some amendments I have proposed to Part 1 of the bill, but just to pick up on some of the comments that Dr Smith has made in the last little while. In terms of, firstly, the idea that there has been wide consultation on this issue, including the councils of Canterbury, last night a press statement from Councillor Chrissy Williams of the Christchurch City Council saying the Mayor of Christchurch may have expressed his personal view, but the Christchurch City Council has not discussed the ECAN review, nor formed a view, nor made any resolution or announcement on this issue. She does acknowledge that Dr Smith went to see the Council, but there was no report, discussion or decision by Council on that matter. So to suggest that there's some kind of support for this from the councils of Canterbury is as much as a nonsense as saying that the councillors at ECAN themselves were consulted on this and agreed to the proposal to put them up against the wall and shoot them as this bill provides for. I'd like to turn to the issue of precedent on this and the message that this has not been the first time that constitutionally elected, democratically elected bodies have been overturned by government announcement. And also the reference to the Hawke's Bay Health Board having lost, it's been disenfranchised. And I'd like to just report comments from the MP for Napier, Chris Tremaine, when that happened, about people having felt that their democratic rights had been thrown out the window, just thrown to the wind, said Mr Tremune back on the 4th of March 2008. And regardless of who was right or wrong, I do not believe that the Minister should have sacked elected board members in favour of appointed people. So I hope that Mr Tremaine is going to stand up and take a call in respect of this bill doing that to Environment Canterbury. And of course also the member for Tuki had some concerns around the issue, commenting that people in Hawke's Bay believe the democratic process had been thrown out the window. So I hope Mr Foss will stand up and take a call and express his outrage at this happening to the people of Canterbury, because that would be appropriate and in line with what's required. I have moved a proposed amendment to Clause 6 of the bill around changes to under the bill to the rights of appeal on water conservation orders. And what we are saying in that amendment is that really once the abrogation of appeal rights ends, that should end in fact when the ECAN is reinstalled, because at the moment those issues of appeal are still in place beyond the time frame that this bill envisages. And that's important because those are important democratic rights. They should not simply be left with the bill once ECAN is reinstated. That, of course, in itself is a moot point, because I note from the ministerial statement yesterday of Mr Hyde and Dr Smith, with Mr Hyde saying, quote, "I am confident that by then, by 2013, Environment Canterbury will be ready to return to an elected council status." Well, that's all well and good, even though it's 3.5 years away before we start to see a return to democracy in terms of Environment Canterbury. Unfortunately, that's not the line that Dr Smith is taking, because he said to a press conference yesterday that no decisions have been made in terms of the new Canterbury Water Authority, which was envisaged by the Creech report, that the government wants to consider the conclusions of the Land and Water Forum due to report in July, then the work of the Environmental Protection Authority, further advice to the Commission and officials around the whole issue of the governance of the region's water. So we don't have any clarity. We have one minister saying in a press statement that he is looking forward to the return of Environment Canterbury by the time the 2013 local body elections are due to take place. 3.5 years without democratic function, and yet we have the minister saying, no, that's not a certainty at all. And that just highlights, I think, the fact that this bill is a dog's breakfast. It is an abrogation of the rights of the people of Canterbury. It is throwing away the democratic and elected body that was put in place by the people of Canterbury to make decisions around the future of water, and that's just not acceptable. The bill, I think, really deserves to have more scrutiny than that provided. We deserve to have this going to a select committee process for decision making, not simply through urgent motions through the House to do away really with the chance for anybody to have any input, any say to this piece of legislation, which will not be, I think, a good piece of legislation in terms of the long-term results for Canterbury or New Zealand.
Honourable Leanne Dalziel.
Mr Chairman, I want to speak on part one of this bill because I'm very concerned about comments that the Minister's made in response to some of the issues that have been raised. One of the things that's so frustrating about the process that we're going through is that we get a briefing at 11, well actually the Minister was late, so about 11:45 I think by the time he arrived, on a draft bill, and then the bill was introduced yesterday afternoon, but of course this will show up in Hansard as the 30th of